And then the next question is, what are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, and All Lives Matter?
They all matter. And I get upset with people who think Black Lives Matter is some evil movement. Um, it's a very simplistic statement. And they're not saying white lives don't matter. Mm-hmm. They're not saying blue lives don't matter. They're just saying that give us more consideration when there's a confrontation. When the police come into our communities, don't be so quick to escalate the violence against us so immediately. That's all they're saying. And like I said, in being a black man and being a former black police officer and growing up in the neighborhood, I got a real good perspective, a really good perspective. I'm not one of these guys that are going to demonize the citizen every time, because sometimes the citizens are right. But I'm certainly not going to sit here and demonize the police all the time, because sometimes the police are right. And the citizens don't seem to understand. Every time there is a shooting or a confrontation between the police and the community, they always want to blame 100% the police. The police need to do this. The police need better training. The police shouldn't have these types of guns. What about the citizens' right? What about the citizens' responsibility to the police department? What about their responsibility not to be so aggressive and not be so disrespectful to the police? Michael Brown being a good example. The police officer has every right to tell you to get out of the street. People say, well, that's harassment. No, it's not. He's jaywalking. It's still against the law. And the police officer who is working has every right to tell you to get your dumb ass out of the middle of the street and get on the sidewalk. And what was Michael Brown's response? Fuck you. Don't tell me he wasn't complicit in what happened to him. I mean, if you're out in the street and you have a confrontation with another guy and he says to you, fuck you, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I'm probably going to curse at him too.
Or y'all going to be banging. So why do people think police are supposed to be immune to someone telling you, fuck you? Come on now. Get real. Don't make it act as if this guy, and to Michael Brown's mother and father, same thing. No disrespect to you guys, but you're lying to yourselves when you tell everybody how great your son was and that he was not a troubled person. That's a lie, and you know it. Because a kid that is not a problem does not go out and do what he did just before he got shot.
And you know,
that's just, you don't just get that way. Everybody that knows Michael Brown has a story about what something that Michael Brown did to someone. I guarantee you. But like I said, I'm not absolving the police officer for his actions. However, Michael Brown brought death to his doorstep by his own actions. It could have been avoided. First of all, like I said, when the dude told him to get on the sidewalk, yes sir, officer, it would have been over. But he chose to escalate it by telling the police officer, fuck you. And when you do that to a cop, anybody out here walking knows doggone well you're going to have a confrontation now. So he got the confrontation. And like I said, once again, not saying that the officer was justified in firing the shots the way he did. But do not make this dude a martyr.
You know, I was actually in a situation back when I was in the 12th grade in high school. Remember I told you I was doing the vocational at East High School? Mm-hmm. And I was walking to the bus stop down like by East Market, because that's before I found out that there's actually a bus that goes to the front of the building, because I used to get out early or whatever, and I wouldn't wait till like 8th period. But I walked down to East Market, and the Circle K over there got robbed, and there was a police officer who responded to the call, and he literally was like probably this close away from his car from like hitting me. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, officer, did I do something wrong? And like the way I responded to him, he basically said, oh, we're searching for someone, but you know, you sound way too calm, because we got a call that the guy who robbed this place was like irate and sort of like on drugs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh no, I just got out of school up there, I'm sorry for anything or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry about that, and he just went on about his like he went on to the gas station. But I feel like the way that people handle situations with police, it's like if you give respect, they'll like sort of give respect back. Like there are police officers who are like like assholes and stuff like that. But there's assholes in every profession.
In every profession, and I get so tired of people always wanting to lump cops into this like we're this monolithic.
Yeah, it's just
we're not. We're just like you said, anybody else. We all don't treat everybody the same in any given situation. But people have got to be fair and really honest with themselves, given all the circumstances that culminated into these deaths. There's plenty blame to go around on both sides. And like I said, when the cops are wrong, I'm going to call it the way I see it. And when the citizen is wrong, I'm going to call it the way I see it. There are plenty of incidences where the police have been 100% wrong. And those people need to be dealt with based on the facts. But you cannot ignore the facts when it doesn't fit your narrative. And Michael Brown, to me in particular, is one of those. Tamir Rice, in particular, is one of those. And one of the most disturbing facts about Tamir Rice, not once did I ever hear his mother at least wonder, why is my 12-year-old kid out here walking around with a gun pointed at people? What did I do wrong that my 12-year-old son, he should know better?
Yeah, like my mom, she found
he should know better.
Like
at 12 years old to be doing that.
Like I had a Uzi, like plastic BB gun with the orange tip, and my mom, I think I was like 16 when I had it. She found it. She just fucking took a hammer and broke it. It's like, oh, you're not having that.
Like all the kids in our family, my sisters, everybody, my brother-in-laws, we have never purchased toy guns for any of the male children in our family, ever. Because it's like, I know guns exist and they're part of our culture, but I don't want the young kids in my family growing up thinking that this is something that should be glorified. I have guns. I've got several guns. When my boys are old enough to understand what they are, I'll show them to them. I'll take them out and show them how to use them, but they're not a toy. They're not something you play around with in that sense. And at 12 years old, Tamir Rice should have known better than to do what he was doing. He should have known better. And if he didn't, that's on his mama. That's on her. It's not once did she ever make any statements about, I tried to teach him better, I tried to do this, I have no idea where this gun came from. You never heard any of that from her. She wanted to put the blame squarely on the police officer. I just thought it was wrong. Like I said, it's a tragedy. And I guarantee you, that dude's probably never slept. If he has a heart, he is still suffering from that boy's death. If he has a heart. Because if that were me, I would be devastated if I fired a shot and thinking that that was real and turned out that it was a toy. Regardless of what I thought I was justified in doing, the fact that I killed a 12-year-old kid I don't know how I would have handled it. It has to be, if you have a heart, it had to be hard to deal with. But on the same hand, how was he to know? Even if he is 12, 12-year-old can kill you too.
Yeah, gun,
And it didn't have, and the fact is, if you come up on a guy and he's armed, we had a situation here in Akron that was very similar. And this guy got shot a lot of times because there were two police officers and they both fired numerous shots. He had been drinking, had a party, exchanged gunshots with a guest that had been thrown out of his party. Someone called the police. The police show up. They see this dude walking down the street, and they see the gun in his waistband. And they call out, drop the gun. I think that the orders were, get on your knees. Put your hands up and get on your knees. And instead of doing that, he did this. They lit him up. Same situation with Tamir Rice. Exact same. He reached for the gun, they shot him. You can't blame them for that. I'm like, come on. And the truth of it is, in my mind, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact because I'm not that dead guy, I don't think he had any intent on shooting the police officer. I really, really don't. But the police officer, how was he to know that? I think the guy was going to pull the gun out and say, hey, here's my gun. Dude was shooting at me, but that's not the order they gave him. They said, put your hands up and get on your knees. If he'd have done that, he'd be alive today. But because he was intoxicated, he reached for the gun.
See, guns and alcohol.
And it killed him. And like I said, that's why I'm against carrying concealed permits. Because shit like that happens. And if he didn't have that gun, he would be alive today. And I tell you people, looking, I know this why? Because he was with his son. He was with his son was either like 18 or a young adult. They were together. The son didn't get shot. When the police said, get on your knees, get your hands up, the son got on his knees and put his hands up. The dad reached for the gun. They were standing next to each other. Son never got harmed. So that's how I know they weren't just blindly shooting. They shot the guy that was the threat. They didn't fire a shot at his son. Wasn't hit. And they were standing next to each other. So that's how I know, in that sense, the only reason he got shot was because he reached for that gun. They didn't shoot his son. Just him. He was the threat.